Misha wants to be as weird as possible. That's his enjoyment in life. Jeremy Bradshaw is this overly rational, like, academic type. Not that Misha's not smart. Misha is incredibly smart, but Jeremy is very rigid in a way that Misha is not. So I went through and I pulled a few quotes about Jeremy being rational. I don't know if I'll go through all of them here. Some are quotes from Jeremy, some are quotes from other people. But I just want to chat a bit about Jeremy and his denial and his rationalization, because it's a lot. And people were understandably frustrated with Jeremy.
Yeah, it was kind of frustrating to listen to, but also I think I would have hated it if he had come around to the concept really quickly. Because, I don't know, I just think it would have been really out of character. I think it makes more sense for him to just cling to his beliefs almost like a security blanket.
Yeah, totally. A lot of people accuse him of that exact thing, that he is clinging so hard so that he feels safe.
Yeah, but it makes perfect sense that he would do that.
I think he's definitely a big intellectualizer. He just, it's obvious, like, he just uses logic to, make his anxieties go away. He's like, oh, well, obviously this isn't a problem, because obviously, I think that's funny because it's such a strong example of that. Like, you see, little hints to it in other characters, in Hollywood and stuff, but in this, it's such a strong, his main character trait is his denial and using logic to support his denial.
I think he's a very scared person, and he doesn't want to be.
Yeah, I did find Jeremy to be frustrating at times, but I actually found it more frustrating watching this live, how frustrated everyone else was with Jeremy.
Yeah.
I think it's because I love Bones so much. I lived off of Bones for, a long time. It was my main show for a very long time. A solid 2 years of university. I watched Bones every day. And Temperance Brennan is very similar to Jeremy in a lot of ways. She is hyper-rational. She doesn't believe in the supernatural. She uses rationalization and compartmentalization to make sense of anything that shouldn't really make sense. She'll find a way to make it make sense and have a scientific explanation. And she also does all of those things because when she was a kid, her parents went missing. So every time that I saw someone frustrated with Jeremy, I was like, he's just Dr. Brennan.
Yeah, just give him a break. He's a person who lost his dad in a very terrible way when he was really young.
He's just using hyper-rationalization to cope with the trauma of losing a parent in an unexplained way. I really liked some of the things that Jeremy said about folklore and mythology. In his class, he's in the first episode, he said, "We'd like to get into the dark and the macabre corners of our world, scary stories, help us explore the gruesome truths of humanity in a safe environment because stories can't hurt us," which I think is excellent. He's so focused on this storytelling aspect so he doesn't have to deal with the fact that any of it's real, which is a recurring theme. But I also like that Jeremy feels like he will at some point be able to explain anything, even the things he can't explain. Vipin's like, "There are some things you can't explain, Professor," and he's just like, "No, there are things I can't explain yet."
Honestly, the whole sentiment about storytelling is repeated a lot on lore, and I just think that's very cool that they worked it into
his character.
It's such a huge part of this podcast and of Jeremy.
And then I really noted this particular line of Jeremy's because it really echoed a lot of season 1 Sam. Jeremy literally says, "What's the use of wondering? My dad's gone and he's never coming back.
Mom's dead.
Mom's dead. Killing the thing and killed her won't bring her back." That's right out the Supernatural pilot. In episode 4, we found out that Jeremy missed valedictorian to Joe, but he did better than Joe on the SATs, and they both went to Harvard Law, so he is very academic type.
Oh, he's a professor.
Yeah, he is a professor.
He did this to himself.
But he's always, he's very highly educated. Harvard, obviously, is a pretty big deal. Jeremy, in episode 5, he says, "I believe in science, and I believe in what I can see with my own eyes." But he also says, "I don't have any problem with anyone believing anything as long as they're not doing anyone any harm." Literally, I'm pretty sure Temperance Brennan has said those things. I'm pretty sure those came out of a Bones script.
Oh gosh.
They probably did.
That is exactly what it is.
Should talk to the writers. How inspired were you by
Temperance Brennan?
She's an inspiring person.
Yes. In episode 6, Jeremy says, "There's a reason we believe in these stories, these myths. They're our brain's way of filling the gaps. We find meaning. We see a cloud and we want to give it a shape we recognize. A shadow will pass before our eyes, these very weak, very limited human eyes, and we call it a ghost. And then we hear a strange noise in the woods and we want desperately really to believe it's the person we want to hear the most. That's what we do as humans. So it's this very real idea that people create monsters. And again, we've talked so much on this podcast about what is a monster and what's not a monster, what's humanity. And Jeremy's like, it's just our brains. Don't worry about it.
It's fine, guys. I disagree, but he's allowed to think that.
Yeah. In episode 7, he says fear and adrenaline, those are the real monsters, kind of the same thing.
Except when he was saying it, I was just thinking, like, okay, sweetie.
Yeah, in episode 8, he says, I'm not going to apologize for being rational and for treating my own work and discipline with serious thought. And then Anne claps back with, do you know why you're a folklore professor, Jeremy? Because you're a coward. To learn everything about them so you don't have to face them head on. Which is true. It's pretty much, Jeremy even agrees with that.
Laughing through my tears.
So last in episode 9 is like, yeah, that's what you'd say, isn't it? A perfectly rational explanation for every single event, even if you have to stretch it over your memory of what actually happened, like trying to fit a rubber band over the world.
Oh, that is a good line.
And then episode 10, she's like, the truth won't wait for you to believe in it, which is excellent.
I love it.
Yeah.
Jeremy, overall, not an easy protagonist to follow along with, like, not the easiest.
But he's a good one.
He's not unlikable. Especially, I feel like episode 9, like, it didn't matter how frustrated you were with episode 9, like, up to that point. When you got to episode 9, all of a sudden, like, you're like, okay, we're back on Jeremy's side.
I think it's because, like, you care about him so much that you're so frustrated. You're like, it would be so much easier on you if you would just let yourself open your eyes.
Yeah, I think going off of what KJ was saying about Temperance Brennan, I think I was maybe a bit easier on him because I love the X-Files.
Yeah.
And that's basically Scully's character. She's the skeptic. And there have been so many times on that show where it's very clear that something supernatural is happening, and Scully's like, no, Mulder. Nope. Get back here.
So I wanted to take a little bit of time. I didn't write myself any actual notes for this, so I'm hoping you guys have things to say.
I'll think of something.
I mean, if anyone's gonna have something, it'll be you, Meredith. About the real Freetown Forest and the Bridgewater Triangle and some of the mythology stuff happening in here.
Well, I didn't do any prior research, but I did listen to the episode of Lore that's about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so apparently there are actual, like, giant snakes and creepy puckwudgies, one of which says Iwachu.
Yes.
I don't know if this is a spoiler for what might happen in the show, but, like, the guy who saw the little creature say Iwachu went home and tried to figure out what it was trying to say, and the conclusion he landed on was it was, we want you.
They cover this actually in the show when Ethan goes missing quite a bit.
That's right.
Because we've heard Iwachu a few times from Vipin, from Daniel. We hear it from Ethan, but when they actually find Ethan, we go from hearing the kind of like puckwudgie like version to then Ethan repeating we want you" a couple of times while he's in like a state.
Yeah, I remember that now.
So that does come up. The puckwudgie myth scares me.
I know, I was listening to that episode of Lore, and it was so creepy.
Basically, from what I remember off the top of my head, you hear that, and it, like, compels you to follow it.
In the show, I think.
Yeah.
So like a Pied Piper situation.
Yeah, and you can just fall to your death. Or go missing and never be seen again. Or
that's
drown.
Fun.
Or...
From what I remember of Lore, it was a guy walking his dog.
Yes.
He saw the puckwudgie and it was talking to him, and he somehow managed to get home.
I think his dog, like, saved his life or something.
Maybe, yeah. I don't remember. So that was fun. And there are actually lights and everything.
But yeah, Freetown Forest is a real forest in Massachusetts. About 200 square miles of forest. A lot of weird things have been reported to happen there. That's all confirmed. Dighton Rock, that Anne and Thomas went to go visit in the 70s. That's a real thing.
Plan your vacations now, guys.
I would like to do these like paranormal like vacation things, but I'm really afraid that one of them's gonna be like real. And something bad's gonna happen to me, and it's gonna be like, yeah, you spent money on that, you're an idiot.
Or like
and
something
you
follows you home.
Yeah, I'm also very afraid of something supernatural being real and following me home.
You can go to Ireland with me. We can visit my fae kin.
Because could you just imagine like something happens to you and everyone's like, yeah, they spent money to go on this like ghost thing and now they're dead.
It's great because you would not be the main character of a movie. You would be the person who dies in the first 5 minutes.
Exactly.
You'd be the person
stupid.
like who gives exposition while getting kidnapped.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the person with like, oh my god, did you know about this historical thing and this person that died here that I've never seen again?
It's like, I am the person who's gonna die. I'm the inciting incident.
On some delightful inciting incidents, Vipin. Let's talk about Vipin, who must be protected at all costs.
Please, no more quote-unquote owls.
The fandom was shook at the end of, I believe it's episode 6 that Vipin gets attacked by a non-owl. And the episode ends with, like, not knowing what happened to him, and everyone was like, what is happening to Vipin? He better be okay.
Didn't I say, like, an episode before or something that, like, if anything happens to Vipin, I will riot?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy your riot?
No.
Julia said that I had already listened to the episode, so I already knew that something happened to Vipin.
Sweating nervously.
And you let me listen anyway. Knowing what would happen.
We said Vipin must be protected, not you.
I was like, Anne must also be protected at all costs. Let's talk about Anne.
Yes, okay. For some reason, she gives me big Ellen vibes from Supernatural.
Yes, a
It's her
lot
voice.
of people said that their voices sound similar. I watched Teen Wolf. She's one of my favorite side characters on Teen Wolf. Sorry, Mama McCall. I didn't mean to call you a side character.
Oof.
But she's the mom of the main character on Teen Wolf. So I have that picture in my head. But if I didn't know that it was her, it would remind. I definitely, like, the vibe was there. The Ellen Harvell vibe.
She's also got kind of like an Ellen vibe. Like, she's a very tough, matronly person who will not take your crap, Jeremy.
Like a badass mom.
Yeah. The mom who's got a shotgun.
I mean, it's also kind of revealed that, like, I knew a parental figure to Jeremy, but before we learned that fact, she was also kind of like, it also kind of felt like she was trying to, like, adopt Jeremy and treat him like a child, foster, like, a parent-child relationship with him a little bit, which is very, like, Ellen Harvell family vibes with the boys.
Yes.
But yeah, Vipin. I think Vipin's more likable, partially because he's so just adorable and eager. But also because he has this academic approach that Jeremy has, but he's also a little bit softer and more open to the possibility of things being real. Makes him a little bit easier to like. Also, he has a very close relationship with Jeremy. It's the person that Jeremy has the closest relationship in the entire show, even though, like, the show isn't really about Jeremy and Anne. Jeremy and Vipin have a much closer connection.
Their relationship is really good for us as an audience because it allows Jeremy an opportunity to, like, work through things verbally. Because, like, it's a podcast,
yeah,
so
we
can only hear stuff. So Vipin is really, really good for that. And we could get to hear what Jeremy's thinking and what his thought process is.
He also knows a lot about Jeremy's personal life and also cares deeply about Jeremy's emotional well-being, more so than Jeremy. He's concerned right off the bat once the badge is found. He also looks into Anne right away as soon as they know Anne exists, because he's like, I've known Jeremy for 4 years. He's never talked about his dad. This is going to be stressful for him. I'm just going to go ahead and do this research so he doesn't have to. He's also really anxious when Vipin and Olivia are, like, hang out. Like, he's partially anxious because he's, like, hanging out with Olivia and he definitely likes her. But also he's like, why are they not back yet? Where are they? They were supposed to be back by now. Very anxious about their well-being.
Also, he's a TA. He should be paid more.
He should be.
He's earned it, guys.
He also knows all about Jeremy's conversations with his mom. He knows all of Jeremy's friends. He knows everything about Jeremy's personal life. He goes out of his way to provide a, quote, safe space for Jeremy to express that he's got some discontent with his life. That's like a real friendship.
I know. Like, Jeremy doesn't really have a lot of friends, but at least he has this one.
When Jeremy's looking for Vipin in the swamp, he calls Vipin Buddy. Which, gave me Cass and Dean vibes. Flashbacks, feels, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. He's also just, like, a good person. In like, episode 4, he's like, yeah, I'm Vipin! I'm so glad you know who I am!
I know!
I'm so glad you remember me.
It's like, yeah, Vipin! That's me!
Anytime anyone remembers who Vipin is or what his name is, he gets so excited. He also has this, like, big long speech about how great Olivia is, which he caps off with, she's a queen. And he's only, like, met her, like, a couple of times.
We love him for that.
That is a man who's gonna treat that lady right, and I hope that they enjoy their time together.
I was starting to
100%.
ship them, honestly.
Yeah, they were very much set up to be a couple, so I hope that in season 2 we see more of that. And it also gives me, I don't know, not to get Harry Potter on this, but Harry Potter is not really about like characters that necessarily have chemistry, but about them all being related at the end. Having something where Jeremy and Vipin kind of end up like distantly related through marriage, that's okay with me.
Yeah.
That would make me happy. I want to talk a little bit about acting. Generally, the acting in the show was incredible.
Oh, yes.
But there was exactly 2 moments of bad acting in this entire show.
Even masters have their slip-ups.